Father's Day to all the fathers out there. This episode is aptly titled Father's Day as well. And it is one of our longer running episodes. It's going to go like around an hour 20. But before we get started to make an episode longer, we have these great reviews from our listeners. So thank you. And
Yay!
Yay indeed. And keep the positivity coming our way. Thank you again.
So this review is by Mark Azali. Great guys that are knowledgeable about this stuff. Wow, this is the only Doctor Who podcast you need to subscribe to. Thanks, Mark.
Oh.
Then we have another 5-star review from Observer Forsyth, chock full of great stuff. If you like Doctor Who, or if you think you want to like Doctor Who, listen to this podcast. It's obvious that these people really love the show, and they know how to talk intelligently about it. You can tell they're also having fun. Listen and nerd out.
Yay.
Another good one here is a great Doctor Who podcast. We'll keep listening. Keep up the good work by Kidneys. Good thing about Kidneys is if something happens to this review, we could always live with another one.
We just lost a star.
Well, with Kidneys, it's because of the fifth Doctor.
12th.
12th. Sorry, 12th.
512, yeah. The first,
I was thinking five.
first word
I was thinking
count.
5 stars and
Yeah.
then yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, but the first words of the 12th Doctor were kidneys.
Yes.
I don't like the color.
Ava132 writes in, is there a doctor in the house? Yes, there is. And this podcast talks all about the good doctor and his exploits through time and space. I am thoroughly enjoying every episode of Doctor Who using this companion podcast. So yay, we're actually helping with this. As a new fan to Doctor Who, because of this podcast, I'm able to catch the nuances and understand the history that I might otherwise not catch as a new viewer. If you're a Doctor Who fan, tune in. You'll be glad you did. Thanks,
Yay.
Ava.
Thank you.
I am Baruch says, do you love Doctor Who? Do you debate with your friends about who your favorite doctor is? It's Matt Smith, by the way. Do you enjoy peeling away the layers that are in every episode? Well, this is the podcast for avid fans are going through each episode of Doctor Who, starting with Eccleston in 2005 and diving into the details. From discussing soundtrack to character development, these Whovians are entertaining and informative. It's a great listen for people who are longtime fans or who are just starting to discover how awesome Doctor Who is. It's a bit long, but it's great for commutes. Only bad that I can say is you will find yourself yelling at your speakers because you want to join the discussion, but can't. Thanks, I am Baruch.
Thank you for all those listeners.
Well, I also would say I would like to discuss with him about Matt Smith being the best, but
We'll get there.
yeah.
So enjoy Father's Day. Welcome to Who Knew. We are fans of the current series of Doctor Who, and on this podcast, we discuss our likes, dislikes, and insights of the modern regeneration of the show. Today's episode is episode 8, Father's Day. On this very special episode of Blossom, Doctor Who, Rose deals with the loss of her father. There's some time travel involved in this episode, and I'd like to go around and ask if you could time travel within your own lifetime, where would you go?
But who are you asking?
I'm asking you guys and to also say your name. I will go first. I would probably want to go to the day of my birth because I went there in my 20s and it didn't have as much impact as I thought it would. And so I'd like to see it actually me being born.
What do you mean you went there in the 20s?
In my 20s, I went to where I was born.
The place.
The place where I was
Okay,
born.
you would actually
Without the
time
time.
travel.
No, sorry.
You made it seem like you were time traveling and you've been holding out on us.
Because I was born in a naval hospital in Washington State, and I went there.
I did not know that.
Cool.
Yeah, I was born there, and I went there with my parents, and I was expecting more, and nothing happened.
You wanted a banner or a party?
Because I didn't
Paradox to happen?
I didn't grow up in there, so it didn't really have any. It was just another building, and I don't know. That's all.
Well, this is Frank, and you threw this question at us. I don't know. Would it go back and try and save somebody?
Can't do that.
No, it's, well, I can do whatever I want if it's a time travel. Would I spend that time trying to do that? Or just on the fun note, I think I go back. Well, I don't want to say exactly how old I am, but it was before Walt Disney died to try and meet him at Disneyland and tell him what's going to be happening.
Oh, that's a good
Buy
one.
more land. By all of Anaheim.
But to actually meet him and have, one of the days he's at the park.
That's a really good one. I like that a lot.
Be there just to wave at Uncle Walt walking down the street,
To actually
walking down
meet
Main
him.
Street.
And tell him that.
This is Brian, and that's a tough one because I want to go everywhere. But if I could have a big red button that would reset everything, one thing I've thought of doing just to be curious is I would go back to the Archduke Ferdinand's assassination.
he said within your
own
timeline.
lifetime.
Oh, within my own lifetime?
Yes.
Because that's
Oh.
a huge button to press, that one.
Well, I would just wonder because that set off the entire 20th century. But within my own lifetime,
Yeah.
I know, you should have warned us about this question so we had time to think about it.
then I don't get to see Walt Disney because he was gone before I was born. Frank. Maybe within my own lifetime, I might just want to be in Florida when the moon landing happened.
That's a good one.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. Well, are we doing time and space?
Just within your own lifetime.
Yeah, no, maybe to see to be
Yeah.
around
Yeah.
during that period.
I would like to see where Eugene was born.
Thank you,
Oh,
Josh.
my name is Josh. And I would like to see a naval hospital in, where was it?
Washington State.
Washington State. I don't know. That's my answer.
Okay. Fair enough.
This is Auburn. And yeah, that's a really, really loaded question. Do you want to go back and fix something that you did wrong? I mean, is it a matter of regrets or a matter of reliving some great point in your life?
Oh, I know what I would do. Go ahead.
All right. I think since I want to call myself an optimist, I would try to go back to a high point. And that's also kind of scary because now is everything after that a low point. I would say, yeah, probably right after high school, before college. I was living with a bunch of people I knew from college. We were having the time of our lives, and maybe tell myself just cool it a little bit. I think it was a little raucous. Go ahead, Josh.
What was your thing?
Oh, kind of similar, though. I would go back to when I was a kid and just teach myself to have some perspective and chill out. It's been a lot of years agonizing over things
Yeah.
unnecessarily.
I wish Sam Beckett was here, a man who traveled within his own time.
So that question was one part Quantum Leap and one part Our Town. If you remember,
Yeah, so if I
anybody
go
gets that
back
reference.
in time, am I going to be like some 60-year-old librarian woman? Like Sam was, or
I don't know.
It is interesting how some of us took it as go back and talk to yourself, and some of us took it objectively. Just you have this window. View something on this window. Like mine had nothing to do with me.
Well, for me, it's like you're not going to see. There are two things that you're never going to see in your lifetime: your birth and your death, or your funeral. So I was like, I'd rather go and visit something happy. All right.
I almost died when I was born.
Oh, jeez.
Well, on that note,
It's true. March of Dimes saved my life.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I was in an incubator for 4 days. Should I keep going with this? Is this what people tuned in for?
We haven't even gotten to the episode proper.
You know, people listening are like, so that's what happened.
But yeah, if you want, I think we'll move on. And then.
Yes, please.
Today's episode, like I mentioned before, is Father's Day, and this was written by Paul Cornell Cornell, sorry, and it was directed by Joe Ahern. I think it's pronounced Ahern because that's how they say it on the commentary.
Spell it?
I will show it to you, not spell it.
No, for people who are listening.
Oh. Ahearne. And Father's Day raked in a ratings of 8.06 million viewers, taking into account time shifting. Rose is remembering...
Timey-wimey shifting.
Ooh, yes. Rose is remembering her father, Pete Tyler, as we flash back to Jackie retelling child Rose about the day her father was killed by a hit-and-run driver. Jackie tells Rose she wished that someone was with him so he wouldn't have to die alone. Back in the TARDIS, Rose asks the doctor if she can see her father when he was alive. The doctor is a bit wary, but grants her request. They go back and see her parents' wedding.
I thought it was interesting that he's more cautious about her than the actual time continuum. Because, is this why you came with me to begin with? Or
That's later.
Oh, that's true. That is later. But he was...
But he is wary.
He's more, are you sure you're ready for this? Do you really want to do this? Is this going to be too upsetting?
And he says, be careful what you wish for.
Be careful what you wish for.
He has a look of, this again, I know where we're going.
Right. But he's not really concerned with that she could screw up time.
Right.
And he does say he can't do anything, which they don't really do that anymore.
No.
They've given the doctor limitations as they moved along.
I'd also like to point out that it's great casting of young Rose. I could really see Billy in that young actress. I was like, where did they find that girl?
And I like the scene at the wedding where he messes up her name. Pete messes up Jackie's name.
And what was
Little Princess Diana.
what was the response? Good enough for Di? Good enough for me? Or
Yeah,
something
something like that. Yeah.
I like the opening, how we start on that slow push in on a photo. And it really sets the tone of obituary and memorial. But then right before the time vortex starts, it's a different photo, I think, where Pete's happier and smiling. Already things have kind of changed a little bit before we even get there.
And even at the wedding, Pete screws up Jackie's name, and Rose is like, I thought he would be taller. So even then, right from the very beginning, Rose sees that things aren't the way that she was told growing up. She's beginning to, there's already little cracks in her image of her dad.
Yes.
A big part of this episode is the balance or the fight between reality and fantasy. The fantasy we tell ourselves, the fantasy that Jackie tells Rose to better her father's in her eyes, and doesn't want to badmouth him, and just what our memories are even alike compared to what the reality of the situation was.
Yeah, because it isn't necessary that Jackie's lying to Rose. It could be just that this is what...
Another perspective of where his death affected her.
Yeah, her death affected her, and this is just, she's built this up in her head. This is her coping. And that's what everybody does.
Yeah. Rose asks if they could go to the day Pete dies, so someone can be there for him. The doctor obliges. They watch as her father gets hit by the car. Rose is overcome by emotion and just can't go to see her father. A few moments later, upset that she missed the opportunity, Rose asks if they can go back and try again. The doctor agrees, but warns her that this is very dangerous for two versions of them to be in the same place at the same time. They must be careful to wait until their earlier selves leave the scene before she goes to her dying father. Rose agrees. And this is where we get the bad wolf mention in this episode.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where? I can't remember.
It's
on a poster.
There's a poster
There's
for
a wall.
Energize.
Yeah.
And it has a date, and then has somebody has written "Bad Wolf" over.
So it's written on it.
and it's where Rose and the doctor
stand behind the corner.
And it's like a tracking shot that goes from the wall to the street.
Yeah, no third term for Thatcher. Something else, and then it's on one of the last posters.
It's like a rave party poster thing.
And also, when the Doctor and Rose leave the TARDIS on the day that Pete died, when they first step out, there's music playing, and the music is a song called Never Can Say Goodbye. So I always
That's a good
kind of
touch.
laugh at that.
Yeah.
And the music isn't really coming from anywhere.
Yeah, it's just like a neighborhood you'd hear it coming out of someone's house.
Yeah.
Well, it's also setting the time period too. I bet they put that.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not loud. It is in the background, so you, a lot of times you don't catch it right away. You have to second or third time watching it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they did this intentionally, but, well, some of you guys might know. The street he died on was called Jordan Road. And isn't it in the Bible where crossing the river Jordan is something Moses couldn't do? And that was kind of like almost like crossing the Rubicon moment.
I don't think it's the River Jordan, but
He just couldn't go into the promise.
he couldn't go into Canaan, right?
Yeah.
But no, he couldn't go into Israel.
But to get into it, they had to cross the river Jordan. That was like the border.
Possibly.
Yeah, that might be it then.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering if did somebody throw that in just as like a, crossing the Rubicon, don't cross the Jordan kind of a thing?
We'll have to look that up.
Or am I stretching? Am I stretching with that one?
You'd have to look up where they, the location they shot that, and if those streets are actually named that. Because if they made a point to change the name of the streets, then you're probably right.
Oh, well, I figured it would just be in the script.
Okay, well, I'll look it up later.
I was just thinking, did the
I'm
writer,
saying that's the way to find
writer
out.
throw something like that in?
Could be.
Just wondering.
They're throwing lots of stuff in.
It was like, you
I did like-
can't do that. Don't cross that kind of a thing.
I did like the little bit of time traveler humor where you see yourself. I think it's Back to the Future. I'm not sure if it predates that anywhere, but it's always fun, to see the events then again from the
different-
alternate perspective.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if Back to the Future was the first one to do it. The first one I saw as a kid, it blew my mind. But, no, yeah, and it's always interesting to see what they're going to screw up. And I don't know, we didn't quite get to it, but I want to talk about that when you get to that part.
Okay.
But first, when they arrive, Rose is surprised that it's an ordinary day, and that's more of the whole fantasizing
Yeah,
her
like-
father.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's just an ordinary day. And let's think about it. When we remember something,
Yeah.
it's different. And then, no.
It's cloudy in England.
Well, that's why I wanted to throw out that icebreaker in the beginning with the Our Town reference. I don't know if you guys remember the play, Our Town, where she says, you can go back to a day, but pick an ordinary day because there's not much emotion attached to it. So that's what reminded me a lot of this episode. Like, she's like, this is just an ordinary day.
I know when I would go back, I would not have eaten that green banana. That was a bad day.
It wasn't ripe.
No. I got...
So, Brian, you are right. The Jordan River is the river that Moses could not cross because that,
Yeah. He was forbidden.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, it's a dividing point. You don't mess with
Yeah.
things. And so I'm just wondering,
Yeah.
was it random or
I
is
don't
this
think
something
so.
that I
Must be
just,
But
intentional.
it works.
Yeah, it works. Yeah. All right. So they watch their early, meaning Rose and the doctor watch their earlier selves from behind a building. Rose jumps the gun and rushes forward to save her father from being run over. The earlier doctor and Rose disappear from existence. Rose is now ecstatic that Pete, her father, is alive, but the doctor looks quite angry. She tells Pete her name is Rose, same as his daughter's, and that she is also going to the same wedding. He offers to give them a ride, but needs to stop by his home first so he can change.
before you go on, we have to point out the most important thing in the entire episode.
Yes.
The vase survived.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
it may have rolled,
And-
but it lived.
And it also has that reversed musical cue when Rose runs. I know that Frank loves this,
Yeah.
so I wanted to
Well,
point
it's the
that
same
out.
as
The
was
Dalek.
it Aliens
Is it Dalek?
of London?
No, it's Dalek.
Oh, is it? Isn't it just on this episode? I don't.
No, that musical.
No, they play that.
No, it's Aliens of London, which
It's Aliens of London, I
came
think.
back to Earth. It was supposed to be 12 hours.
Oh, you're
and it
right,
was
you're
12
right.
months.
That's right.
And
And also in Dalek they use that, but not to this same effect.
right.
I thought
Right.
it was great in this episode because they used it throughout and the way they used it.
And it makes sense for this episode
Yeah.
because something's being changed, so things aren't like normal. And I like that.
Yeah. Also, too, what I was going to say earlier was that right before Rose and the first Rose and Doctor disappear, he looks at her, Like,
Yeah.
and you can't quite tell what his expression is, but it's almost, I kind of interpreted it like he is concerned for her. Like, he doesn't look around. He doesn't like,
Oh, yeah.
be looking like, what am I going to do? He looks to Rose, you know, because this is the relationship because this whole relationship is sort of like a fight a couple has on a vacation with their family. Like halfway through it, I was just like, oh, that's what this is like. And it kind of
Yeah.
follows that structure.
I agree with you. I think that's really cool because the doctor looks at Rose to see like how's she doing. She just witnessed
Right.
her father dying, you know?
Oh, I think it was like he saw what happened. He saw that,
Oh, yeah.
like he knows it, but before he even has time to think about, oh no, we're not going to exist in a moment, he looks to her
Yeah.
as opposed to anything else.
That's a great character moment. Thank you.
But the first time that they were there, he grabs her hand. Well, not forcefully grab, but he
Right.
takes her hand. And it made me think there's two different reasons. One, to support her, or
Or to
two,
stop her.
to just hold her because he knows this is going to be a tough thing that she may want to go, you know, before it happens. So is he doing both? Is he doing one or the other? I want to know Rose's motivation. Is she trying to fulfill her mother's wish that he doesn't die alone? Or does he want to, you know, it's like, why doesn't she want to save him the first time she's there? But she wants to be
she's
with him. She wants to be
overwhelmed.
there
Overwhelmed.
Yeah.
She's too overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Does she want to be with him just to fulfill Jackie's wish? Has that been drained, you know, just beat into her so often as a kid, rather than just being with her father when he dies, but
Well, she
being there
sorta
for
says
her
that-
mother? This is what, you know, been built up all this time.
She sort of says that later. She kind of confesses later in the episode. I don't bring that up right now.
I mean, I don't think she's thinking of
It's-
Jackie's motives there. I think she's thinking of her own. I think it's become her own.
I think
Yeah.
it's become so ingrained because of
Become
what
her
Jackie
own.
wanted
Yeah,
that became what she
said.
wanted.
You know, this is the story that her mother's told her forever. So that when she's thinking of the story, that's what she's thinking of
Instead of the real thing.
She's
Yeah.
now hearing in her head, there was no one there when he died. I wish someone was there when, and it's not really Jackie's voice that she's hearing. It's probably just changed into this is what no one was there when my father died.
And that's I just wanted what was, and I'm not articulating well. That's what I wanted clarified and through this. To go, no, it was something that's so ingrained that it was the act itself, without even thinking about it, that she wanted to be there. At that
Yeah, like
point.
her whole life was, if her whole existence has been, if someone was there when my dad died.
Right,
You know,
right.
I'm sure she's been saying all her life, like, if I was there, I would have stopped him from dying.
See, I don't think it goes that far. I think just somebody should have been there, so he wasn't alone.
And she just failed the first time. You know, she couldn't.
I
Like
wish he
she's
would have
been
shown
thinking.
that. I wish he would have shown her run
Yeah.
off, because that just didn't say when she actually left.
Yeah, it was kind of weird in the editing. I mean, I think it was a choice, but like, they didn't. It went from her just standing there to
Yeah.
And back in the
minutes
TARDIS.
later,
Yes.
like
Well, no, she's outside on the wall, and they hear the
Oh, that's right. They're not back in the
sirens
TARDIS.
coming, and
Yeah,
she knows
yeah.
that he
Yeah.
passed away
It was
before.
yeah, you're right.
The ambulance
Yeah.
gets there.
yeah, it was a little confusing. I don't know if that was intentional. Or not.
Yeah, it
would've-
wasn't
it would've
bad. It's
been-
an artistic choice just to cut. It's like we don't need to know all the little details,
Yeah.
but in something that's time travel that she's going back and visiting again,
Yeah,
it
when
would have
you-
been nice to have seen
you're really trying
when
to
she
s-
left, what time period she has to go to her dad.
Yeah, yeah.
Then maybe it would have been better to see a little bit more of her struggling with herself. Like
Right.
while the doctor's holding her hand, it's like,
No,
And
because I
now-
think what we said.
go now. Oh, I can't. You know, or turning away or something.
I think what we said was she wanted to be there for her dad at that point still.
Yes.
When he died. So
Yes.
it's like she wouldn't have gone beforehand. She didn't have that
No,
struggle.
I'm not talking about her going to save her father. I'm talking about going to
Just
to
being
be
there.
with him.
Be there, yeah.
We didn't see
Like
the
we didn't see
struggle
her
that she was
struggle
in.
of her.
Right.
Like the accident has happened. The car is driven off. Pete's on the road.
Right.
We didn't see hers going.
Her reaction to
or
that.
the
Right.
doctor saying now, now
Right,
is
yeah.
the time,
It just
and
cut.
she, like you say, turning and running away.
For all you know, they shot it and they had to cut it for time.
Yeah,
Could
for
be.
time. Yeah,
Yeah,
could be it.
could have been.
We don't know. So if anybody out there knows Paul Cornell, if you can email us.
Maybe somebody spilled soda on those tapes.
So back at the Tyler apartment, the doctor accuses Rose of planning to save her father ever since she first entered the TARDIS. But she says it was a spur of the moment decision.
He is so angry.
Very angry at this point.
It's one of those things because I get the same way. When you are so just livid, you shut down. And he just leans up against that wall and just stares at
Yeah.
her while she goes and goes and goes. He is so angry.
Yeah, I really liked he doesn't even speak. You see that in his face. And I think part of Rose trying to show all these great things about Pete is her guilt.
Yes,
she knows.
it's totally her guilt. Yeah.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah.
They continue to fight, and he tells Rose to give him back the TARDIS key before saying goodbye. It's also great that the Doctor points out that an ordinary man is the most important thing in creation, and there's an ordinary man that is alive that shouldn't be alive.
Well, and it's great because Rose is saying he didn't prevent World War III. He's
Yeah.
not going to do any great things. He's just alive. And I love, same as you, where the Doctor's just saying,
It's one person.
it's
This
the
goes back
greatest
to
thing ever.
Davies.
Yeah.
And wanting, no, every life has something to give, whether it's ordinary. What it is unique still. And that's what his doctors show. And even this episode, I think, is really pointing on that because it does say it's an ordinary day. It does say he's an ordinary life. Later on, they use that same, it's ordinary. But that's what makes it so unique and special.
Yes, I agree with you. And I love that they spend time pointing this out in this episode.
Ordinary is fantastic.
Yes.
I like the decor of the apartment. At first, I didn't recognize it as being the same apartment that we
Oh,
have.
is it? I didn't even think about
And
it.
it is
Yeah,
the
it
same
is.
apartment.
It
It's
is.
like, oh my gosh, this thing's cluttered.
And the walls are purple.
And some of the waters have the paintings and drawings that are definitely 80s.
80s,
Yeah.
Well, and all that drink stuff that you sell from home and things that was very big back then. All like sort
Right.
of personal entrepreneurial ship selling things. It was a very big 80s thing.
And just that's so Pete of trying the next greatest
Fad.
thing.
No,
That
fad, yeah.
doesn't work in this world.
Yeah, no.
Ooh, didn't want to give a spoiler.
Stop it.
Unseen creatures from above watch the Doctor as he leaves the apartment complex. All across town, the creatures are attacking people, making them disappear. At the church, there's a groom, and he notices that many of his guests are missing. Meanwhile, the Doctor arrives at the TARDIS, but finds it is just a regular police box.
I remember the first time watching this episode, that was the biggest shock
Oh, yeah.
ever. When he opens up the doors and it's
Yeah.
just
A normal...
a normal box.
Yeah.
I remember just audibly gasping because it was just so, that's bad.
like, what is going on here?
Like the whole gimmick of the show has just been turned off.
yeah, this is, you know,
It's
this is
Superman
bad.
losing his powers kind of thing. It's like,
kind of, yeah.
You can't travel anymore anywhere.
It's Batman losing his...
Belt.
Like horrible backstory.
Batman losing his Alfred.
Because I remember a Super Friends episode where they capture each Super Friend, and like Superman's like, "Oh, my superpowers are gone. Flash, my super speed is gone." Batman and Robin get captured. Our utility belts are gone.
Our fashion accessories no longer here.
I wanted to point out that in the original script of that scene with the TARDIS, where the Doctor opens it up and it discovers it's just an interior of the police box, this was changed because of production issues. It was going to cost too much to have it like collapse.
Oh, I think what they did was a hell
Oh,
lot
yeah,
better.
absolutely,
better.
more
The
effective,
simplicity of it.
much more effective.
Yeah.
Now, they did try to get a little humor into the last two scenes. When the Doctor is yelling at Rose, calls another stupid ape. And I guess that's an Adam reference because that's the only companion.
I feel like Eccleston
really a
always
stupid
calls humans apes when he's angry.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. I think it's more broader.
But then Pete talking to Rose going, he'll be back because, if I was dating someone like you, and her reaction, stop right now. Do not go there. That's the Bermuda Triangle. You never go there. Was a good piece of humor.
Doesn't she say before that, like when she's still standing at the door, why does everyone think we're a couple?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she puts out her arm for him to grab it, and she's like, "That's not going to send a signal." I'm like, no, what?
And then the father of the groom does not want this wedding to happen.
Yeah.
He is not a fan of the bride.
Well, I like that they gave the secondary minor characters backstories.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't just a wedding where the bride and groom were happy and everybody is happy. There was just a little bit of,
Enough.
just a little bit, a little taste.
Absolutely.
You know,
Of reality.
of reality,
going on.
where it's just like, no, he's not happy. It doesn't mean anything to the
story.
to the story,
plot.
but it makes them more realistic.
and relatable.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to know the story why he decided to wear that earring.
It's the 80s. It's the 80s.
Don't you remember those in
my
the 80s?
God.
Yeah, I do.
Those earrings were so 80s. Those little red, or not red, but gold round
I think
And just the
study
one.
things.
Just the one, yeah.
Because I had a friend who bought a pair of earrings, and he and this
no.
other guy each wore one. Because it's like, what do you do with it? Because you only have. We were in London on a trip with a group of people,
Oh, okay.
and so we didn't really know the different people. But they said, "No, let's get this stud earring." And we
You know,
followed
it was just funny to see the earring trying to look cool with that haircut. That looked the most, the most yearbook looking haircut I've ever seen.
you know who also remembers that earring in the 80s? Harrison Ford.
Not in the 80s.
No, he
Still
wore
wears
it
it.
later.
But he's remembering the 80s. That's what he wore.
Oh, I thought it was because he's in his 80s.
Could be too.
And the brick telephone.
Yeah, I love
It wasn't as big as some other ones, but
No,
it was
I mean,
still
yeah, because
big.
this was 87.
It was
yeah,
87.
the 85 was when you had those gigantic
big gray ones.
things. But yeah, by this point, it was a perfect
yeah,
time for that
to show that, yeah.
And boy, that I remember those were just like, wow, that's the coolest thing ever.
And speaking of the phone, the timeline is scrambled, so there's a message that comes over the phone, and it's misquoted in the show.
What does he say in the show?
In the show, it says, "Watson, come here. I need you." The real quote is,
Mr. Watson.
"Mr. Watson, come here. I want to see you."
Oh, really? I always heard it as "I need you."
I don't think
Where are you getting your new information?
Were you there?
Yeah.
No, I mean there is coming out that it's the wrong saying.
It's the wrong quote because when they originally recorded it, the guy had an accent, so it sounded too like you couldn't tell that it was going to say
The guy. You mean Alexander Graham Bell?
Yeah, the guy that recorded it, the actor that recorded it, it was so they decided to paraphrase it to "Come here." I
Oh, you
need
mean in like the movie, the original movie or something?
no the episode of Doctor Who.
The guy who said it when he
in
said
the
it
show.
the right way was
I've
too
always
British.
heard it growing up and over the years as "Come here, I need you."
Right.
I just looked it up. It's "Come here. I want to see you."
I understand that you just said that, but what I learned growing up is it's the other.
Okay.
So it's curious.
It's like it's not recorded. It's not like it's on.
Yeah.
someone's
Yeah, I don't know if
no.
we really know exactly what they said,
Sure, I'm just.
but it
saying.
was something like that.
It was cool too, like because is this a Sherlock reference? But then I kept thinking about it the first time I watched it, and I was like, wait, that's kind of cool. It's
Oh, you didn't know?
not at first, and then I figured it out later,
Oh,
and I was like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's some movie I saw when I was a kid, and I remember learning it in school.
And even the Voyagers episode.
there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's on the commentary where they explain why they changed.
Frank will have a Voyagers podcast one day because he loves
For the
that
three
show.
people who still remember that.
Yeah.
The first time we heard that was in the car, right? With
Yes, over the
Rose
radio.
and
So
Pete.
continue. We're still having got there, have we? Or did we?
No, yeah.
At the church, the bride and Jackie arrive with baby Rose. As Pete and Rose pull up, the car that nearly ran Pete down appears out of thin air and almost hits them. Rose yells, "Dad!" and Pete swerves out of the way. After they get out of the car, Pete and Jackie begin to fight, which seems to be the norm for them.
I want to go back to the
So we did,
car.
okay. Yeah.
Sorry. You mentioned the music when they first arrive, and in the car we have Rick Astley, "Never Gonna Give You Up."
Which
Yeah.
was 87,
yes,
which is perfect.
Yes, which was almost Rick
Again,
rolling,
the
but
title, Never Gonna Give You Up, along with Never Can Say Goodbye.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
But then it shifts. I don't know if you guys know the Streets, the music that it turns into. That is more contemporary.
Yeah.
The rap-ish kind of.
Yeah, I
British
don't know
rap.
that song, but
Yeah.
I knew
Yeah,
it
'cause she
wasn't from
says-
87.
Yeah, she said that's not out yet.
That's not out
Right,
yet.
it's supposed to be
Yeah.
2002 from what I've seen.
I
don't know
listened
where
to
I
it
got
in
from.
college, but
Okay.
I don't know what the connection is other than that it's
That's that music.
the
repeat.
time
You were
getting
in college
mixed
in
up.
2002. Wow. I was in college in 1987. That's The Bridge.
Yes.
No, the bridge
Wow.
was Billy Joel, and that was.
That was a very good album. That was, yes, even earlier.
There we go.
What year did the bridge come out? I bet you it was 87. Wouldn't that be funny?
Speaking of the 80s and space launches, I remember where I was when the Challenger blew up.
Yeah, so do I.
30-year anniversary.
I was in college.
Yeah.
That was my first day of my astronomy class, and I sat down, and the teacher said, "I'm not going to teach today. You all know why." And I remember going, "Why?" because I hadn't heard yet. And then the moment he said it, I just raced home.
I will not tell you where I was when that blew up because you will cry.
Nursery? Your nursery? Anyway, back to the episode.
Back to the episode.
Billy Joel's The Bridge came out in 1986.
Oh.
I said back to the episode. I'm just kidding.
But also, while they're driving,
Gee, we need Kelsey here to say,
Yes.
get on topic.
the car is following them. You can see
Yes,
it in the rearview
in the
mirror, and then
rearview.
also goes off a different direction. So this car
Is tied to Pete.
is in its own little weird time loop that's tied to Pete and moves to follow Pete through.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
See.
They weren't just driving on that road? I
No,
took
it's a
it as they
different
were-
road.
Well, because it disappears.
It keeps disappearing.
Yeah.
So it keeps moving.
So I have a feeling if Pete left the church and went somewhere else, the
would be
car
there.
would still be appearing and disappearing wherever he is.
So it's almost like orbiting him.
Yeah.
Because it's like the timeline wanting to correct itself.
Yeah.
Right, because where he actually ends up getting hit
Is not where
is
he
not
got
where
hit.
he almost got hit.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because I guess he got hit right outside his apartment.
Yes.
And
You're right.
then, we'll get there.
All right, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
I liked Jackie's hair. It reminded
I
me
have to
so
say,
much. She looks so great.
Of
for the 80s.
everything in this episode,
Spot on.
Jackie is the 80s. Everybody else, it's like whenever they do the
I don't know,
things in the
Pete-
past.
the stuff Pete was wearing.
But the thing about it that gets me whenever they go back in time, they force it. They do every stereotype
think
where
this
like
was-
all the people didn't all wear that crap.
Well,
Jackie
true,
was
right.
dead on.
Oh, yeah.
And Jackie was the one I was thinking you could take a picture of Jackie and it would look like she was from the 80s. If you took a picture of everybody together, it would look like the 80s threw up on something. And that is not realistic. Because
I don't know if it was that much.
no,
I mean,
not
she
that
did
bad.
epitomize it. She
Yeah.
was great. But I don't know if it was that
I mean,
overly
this
done.
isn't as bad as some other things, but
Right.
Jackie, I just, when Jackie got out of the car, it was like, oh yeah,
There it is.
absolutely.
That was a wig.
Really?
Yeah. I hate to burst that bubble, but that was a wig.
That's not bursting a bubble. This is a TV show. None of it's real.
The doctor runs up and yells for everyone to get into the church.
Oh,
Yes.
before you move on to that, I do want to say that with the argument between Pete and Jackie and Rose is watching this, you can see her world view
Shattering.
is shattering.
Yeah.
This is just shattering all her notions, where it's like they weren't necessarily happy. Look at them. They're arguing like crazy. Jackie has a lot of ammunition in the argument. He's a terrible businessman. He's got his little schemes that never work. He's a cheater.
And the co-check girl, yeah.
Yeah, he's a
Yeah.
cheater, which that's the doozy.
And she gets to the guy. She calls him a useless. Where's that useless article of a dad?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's just shatters Rose, which is
Yeah.
kind of a symbolic gesture of physically what's going around.
And
the
also-
world is shattered.
And also goes back to the doctor's warning, like, be careful what you
Be
wish
careful
for.
what you wish for.
But Jackie had the best line. Oh, Pete, you never used to like the mental.
And also, too, while they're arguing, as Rose is getting more upset, you hear the baby Rose start
Get
to
upset,
cry more and
yeah.
more. So, like, this is what she was gonna grow up around.
Yes.
So it's like the baby's having the same reaction as Rose, which had that reaction. So it's almost like that's what happens psychologically. Like when we hear
Yeah.
people argue, it's we were imprinted on, and so she yells at the same moment the baby's couldn't take it anymore either.
But right before the doctor arrives, they're in the background, Pete and Jackie, coming together again.
Yeah.
I mean, Pete is talking her down, and you could see that there was something there between them. They still love each other. Jackie's just fed up with not having the life that she thought they were going to have. I mean, it's the same kind of fantasy reality thing, but she didn't expect to have all these things cluttering up the apartment. It's just, but you can see that they still love each other, and Rose sees that. And then the doctor comes in. And Rose has that smirk on her face. I knew you were going to leave me, and instantly changes to, "Oh crap!"
Yeah, I really like that moment
What's going on?
her expression changes when she sees that his expression, like she knows what that look means,
Right.
And him running.
And also at this point in the episode, the music cue changes, or the music changes to reflect like this inner shattering of images in her mind. The doctor runs up and yells for everyone to get into the church. The creatures appear in the sky and attack as people run away. The doctor explains that time has been damaged and these creatures are here to fix it by consuming everything. He notices through a window of the church a car appearing, rounding the corner, and disappearing again. Pete puts the pieces together and discovers that Rose is his daughter.
Yeah, I really like how perceptive Pete is. You know,
right off the bat.
yeah, oftentimes they make these characters like you want to
One-dimensional.
yell at the TV, like,
Right.
don't you get it? But he starts putting things together very quickly.
And I like that because it's kind of apparent to their child. A parent knows their child, you know,
Regardless.
And once he finds out
regardless
that
of
there's-
what, you know. My mom had this weird thing, you know. I remember one instance when my brother worked at the Forum as an usher. We were on one side of the Forum. My mom looked down across the entire Forum to an aisle tunnel on the opposite end and went, "That's Mike." And we went, "No, it can't be." And she's like, "I know my son." And she was right. I mean, just apparent, just there's something inherent in there. And whenever that kind of stuff pops up in TV shows like that, I always kind of remember and have a good feeling from that.
Oh, yeah.
I do, and once he starts believing the time travel, once he's doing, what does that mean? Once he starts, once he finds out that time travel is possible and that's a factor in life now, that's like the final key to him figuring it out.
And he
He
accepts
knew
it
that
quickly.
before she said that. I mean, he said put all that stuff together beforehand of why this whole thing is her fault, why they think it's her fault. What was the thing that caused that? Sounds like Jackie has his eyes. He gave her the car keys, which most guys would not give
Yeah, but
anybody
he
the car
didn't like
keys.
finally.
Nobody inherently trusted her.
Yeah,
He felt
but
comfortable
he knew
around
something
her.
was up.
But then he says, you know, he knows it's Rose, and later on she says that it's a time machine, and that's, you know, he goes, wait a minute, that's how you got here. There's a time machine. Does everybody have this? Is that not what's happening?
Right, but but there's monsters and this and that now. Like, didn't they talk about time travel before?
No.
Oh, okay.
But just going, I don't know how you got here. I don't know what's going on. It's just he knows this is Rose, his daughter.
And he accepts things really quick. Like, he sees all this and he's not freaking out necessarily like other people are.
Yeah.
Kind of like Rose. You know, where Rose did in the beginning, where she just kind of went, she wasn't, I don't know what's going on, but she adapted really quick. And Pete does too. Pete really begins to accept things pretty quick.
And I think as a viewer at this point, we kind of subliminally get that that's okay for Pete because Rose is like that.
Yes.
And I think that's a great like character moment for Pete. Going back to the doctor yelling at everybody to get into the church, I like that he describes that older structures. The older a structure is, the stronger it is. Mm-hmm. I just always love that line.
Yeah, very cool. I like it's sort of like a double science and a religion thing. Like
Yeah.
you'd go into the church for sanctuary, but because
There's
of science,
there's a
it
reason,
actually
yeah.
is because it's so old.
I love that. And also at this point, he talks to the bride and groom, how they're ordinary, and how
Meeting one night and
in
sharing
a street
a cab
corner,
home.
sharing it. Yeah, at
And-
2 a.m. That's I will save you, and I just love that.
It's again, ordinary is awesome.
Yeah,
A little VFX stuff. I remember watching this episode the first time and not really liking the creatures.
Yeah.
But watching it again, they weren't as bad. And I don't know.
I've gotten used to them.
Yeah.
I do like how their movements are not fluid, and that makes them more creepy. I don't know if you guys noticed that they're like a little more staccato in their movements. Like it almost looks like an insect,
Right.
like doing this. It's kind of cool.
I mean, they definitely look better than the Langoliers. I haven't read the book, but I saw the movie or the made-for-TV movie
Yeah,
with Balky. Yeah. So they definitely did better than that.
And I think they're kind of creatures that the shorter the visual effects shots were, the better.
The more effective.
Yeah, the ones where you got really long looks at them, then you kind of they've got a little too long, but like the shorter ones, the quick shots, and also I love the ones through the stained glass.
Oh, yeah.
I was just gonna say the ones with the stained glass are the most effective.
They're they're great.
And side note that they're called Reapers, but
Yeah.
it's never mentioned in the episode. That's why we're not really
how
using
do we-
that
Yeah.
title.
How do we know
It's
that
on the
then?
closed captioning.
Yeah.
It's also on the commentary.
What does it say in the closed captioning?
A reaper screeches.
This is going to be originally more of a character piece, showing Rose and showing the backstory of the companion and what's going on with that, to be the so-called, like cheap episode, not really having a lot of visual effects.
Yeah,
But
because if you think about it, it's more character driven than like adventure driven on this
Right.
one.
but the director wanted to have something in it, and then BBC said, yes, we want to have more monsters. This is what Doctor Who is. We want to have the monster of the week. So they put a lot more money into that. And it didn't turn out to be
The cheap episode.
Yeah. So then Boomtown became the cheap episode for the season. So it's like,
Kinda
back
split the money
in the
that way.
80s, the cheap episode would be your flashback episode. You
Right.
know, oh, gee, somebody's
clip show.
tied us up. Do you remember that time when we got robbed 3 years ago? That kind of stuff. And so nobody likes doing those. So, like, I think once a season, you can point to one episode of Doctor Who and say that's the cheap episode. It kind of evolves into, they now call them Doctor Light episodes because it's usually the episode where the Doctor's not in a lot of scenes.
Like Blink?
Yes.
Yes.
Blink is a cheap episode.
Yeah,
it's a-
And isn't that amazing?
And what's strange, this is a flashback type of episode where it bookends
Yes.
with that flashback. So it's, it's
Yeah.
tribute to the 80s in that way.
But it was great that they realized that there was more to this.
Yeah.
They
Yeah, Boomtown becomes the cheap episode of the season after
Yeah.
this, which when we get to Boomtown in a few weeks, I think is to its it helps it to its
Yes.
credit. Yes.
Oh, yes.
Because it becomes like a play.
Which one is that?
Well, in a couple of weeks we'll
we'll get there.
But what's the gist?
The
of the-
Rexicorico-Falbatorians are back.
She's the,
okay. Very good.
she's the mayor.
Yes.
Well, just like Wrath of Khan is, they considerably lowered the budget and they focused on the story,
Yeah.
and it made that movie like the best Star Trek movie.
I mean, it's Jaws. It's like, because it didn't
Yeah.
work so much, because the shark didn't work so much better for the movie,
Yes.
not seeing it as much.
Yeah. So I think it's funny how things work out.
I mean, it is good, but it can also be bad. I mean, I can't think of any bad examples now, but I think it is kind of.
Well, you couldn't do the Jaws thing with, like, Independence Day. No, we need to see a lot more effects on that.
I don't think
We could've
Independence.
done it with some others.
I don't think Independence Day did Independence Day.
It's one of those things. Is like having smaller stuff isn't necessarily better. It's the story. Can you have a story? Can you make a story work without spending a lot of money? Sometimes yes, and sometimes no. So they just get a
Absolutely
lot
true.
of
And I think
because
right,
there is a Dr. Light episode. We'll get to it.
it's your favorite.
Oh, and it's just not good. It is not a good story.
All right, moving on. The Doctor warns Rose to stay away from baby Rose, and that if they touch, it would cause a paradox which would strengthen the creatures and let them inside the church. The Time Lords could have dealt with this.
Would it strengthen the teachers or weaken time?
I don't know, but
What's the difference?
From what I remember, it was strengthening the creatures so they can
Get inside.
get into the
Get
older
inside.
buildings and things that have been around for longer.
because they see something that's not supposed to happen, I think that's what
I took it as it's weakening the time continuum, so they're able to get in.
it could be both.
I think it's both.
Yeah, it could be both.
I mean, that to
actually.
me is. The
I'm just
same.
mincing.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
The Time Lords could have dealt with this, but now that they're not around, he doesn't know what to do. The Doctor, meaning. The TARDIS key glows, and the Doctor energizes it to gradually bring the TARDIS back
Using
using a cell phone battery, but a
And
brick,
sonic screwdriver.
but a brick cell phone. Pete asks Rose,
Hold on one sec.
"Okay,
Because this is a scene where they make up, where the Doctor and Rose make up because they've been
fighting
this whole
and
time.
feuding."
And he says, sorry. And the
Brian, could
strange
you
thing is, the
lean-
Doctor has seen the car outside, so he knows.
Something's up.
No, he knows that Pete should be dead. This car is still here, so this instant Pete should still be dead, and he's trying to find other ways around it so that he doesn't have to hurt Rose. And he's explained to Rose, it's like, she goes, "I'm not stupid. Yeah, you could have fooled me because what you did was dumb." And she realizes it, and she apologizes, and he cups her face like the father would.
Yes,
And later on, Pete
that's
does the
true.
same thing,
Yeah.
and a fatherly touch. And then they embrace. And it's like, okay, now we're back into to team. We're working together. And the thing is, he didn't have his TARDIS. It's like the inside of the TARDIS was somewhere else. It was pushed out of this time bubble, time change, alternate time. But the key's still linked to it. So, yay. That's it's like, now I can figure out what to do. Now with the TARDIS,
like
now
we have
with
a
the
plan.
right stuff, we can do something. But it's going to take time to bring the TARDIS back.
Yeah. This is a little, like maybe a little more morbid, but every time now that I've seen this episode multiple times, every time I see that car run around and then I see the Doctor see the car run around, I feel like I just want the Doctor to just go push Pete out into the window and fix the timeline, and we're back.
Oh, that's not a little more morbid. No.
Well, if the Time Lords were around, they would.
Yeah, that's what the Time Lords would do.
Kill Pete.
Yeah.
But every time I see the Doctor seeing that car run around, he's like, I think the machinations in his head just makes me want to push Pete into the way.
And he does, because that's what's right. That's what should happen. But
Yeah.
he doesn't want to.
But he cares about
Hurt
Rose.
Rose.
Can't
Yeah.
do that. Yeah.
I get a kick out of the driver of the car doing the old, putting his arms
Arm
in
up.
front of his face.
Yeah.
Because that's what you do when you're about to run into something.
Did we
And
have
that also
did we
can
have airbags in
have to pay
87?
them less because they can't see his
Oh,
face.
maybe.
It's now just an extra rather than the
Probably
character.
because that was a stuntman driving.
Or maybe it was Eccleston again, and they just
What does the Doctor say? How does he phrase that the Time Lords are gone? I wanted to mention it and I forgot to write it down, but he says something like,
I think my people
were.
would have dealt with this.
Yes, no, but I'm saying
Yeah.
because he said what he says. Okay, this isn't an exact quote, so don't crucify me. But he says, "My people were ripped away, and now it's happening to me."
I don't remember that.
He says something like that. I wish I could remember the exact line because to me it was very interesting. Where it was like, okay, what he was saying was, my people didn't just die. There was some time cataclysm.
and
now
they
we know
were-
about the Time War. We know that he killed everybody, but now we're kind of getting a hint that he got rid of them in a really significant, odd, different way.
Yeah.
And because then he says, and now it's happening to me. So it isn't that just that they're dying. It's just that there's this time cataclysm that's destroying everything. And so that's how the Time Lords
Were
died.
yeah. They were like erased, sort of.
It's more interesting for me now, years later, and seeing what
happened.
what happens, where it is kind of one of those things where it's like, oh, that's kind of interesting. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was just an interesting little, it's not even a clue. It's not even a hint, but it was a good way to write it. It's not just that, oh, my people died and now I'm dying.
Yeah. Well, now that we reviewed the tape, give us a playback.
The Time Lords are gone and now I'm going the same way. So he doesn't
Yeah.
mention something specific, but to me, it just seems like an odd, and I'm
Choice.
going the same way.
Yeah.
It's like there's some time cataclysm that happened to the Time Lords. It wasn't just that they blew up.
Or they died.
Yeah. Or they died or something like that. Yeah. It wasn't like, he released a virus on them or something like that. And I'm going the same way. There's some
Aspect. that's
problem with
similar.
time.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
just my little thing.
And we also are going to mention young Mickey. Coming in.
That was a fun little bit.
Yeah, because I remember watching that episode the first time and seeing the kid on the swing. I'm like, is that young Mickey?
Did you really think that?
Yeah, I did. I
Did
did.
you really?
Yeah.
I didn't.
I guess that's his grandmother.
I did think, what is he wearing?
No.
But it was the
Right.
80s.
But then when he shows up and just hugs Rose,
Yeah.
I was
That
like,
was great.
I was right. It's Mickey.
But I thought they were the same age. Rose and Mickey, I thought, were a lot closer because he's at least 4.
Yeah.
She's
TV magic.
He looked like he was 5.
He
And I'm trying to-
looks older.
work it so that they're a little
Right.
closer together in age. It's like at
Right,
least
so-
4, but he seemed 5. But
Yeah, so wait a second. So if she's 19.
He's 24, 25.
Oh, so she was just born. Okay, right.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I guess that's okay.
But still, I would always pictured him younger.
Yeah. I just picture them like being in the
Similar.
in school together.
Maybe he was held back a few grades.
Oh,
so-
that's just mean.
Maybe he held himself back so he could be in the same grade with Rose.
Oh, that's romantic.
And how quickly the tides changed. Pete
And
asks,
see what that gets him.
Pete asks Rose what type of father he became and realizes he wasn't around. He was meant to die this day. Jackie overhears part of the conversation and fights with Pete about having another daughter.
Yeah, I think it's funny how everything that Jackie hears is misinterpreted.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like in episode of Three's Company.
I love it. Rose, you always name your kids Rose.
Is it a secondhand name?
How old were you? 12?
One other thing too I do want to say is that when Tasha figures out that she should be dead. Oh wait, sorry. When Pete figures out that he should be dead, the actor does such a great job there because he's not terrified, but he's scared.
Yeah.
He knows what's going on, but he can't believe what's going on. And this actor carries it off. And a lot of it is just in his facial expressions. I mean, he does talk to Rose, he does talk to Jackie, but a lot of it, when he's looking out the window and he's realizing what I have to do, he does it really,
It's a
really
really
well.
complex role.
Yes.
And this guy sells
He
it.
nailed
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully they bring him back.
What's his name?
Pete.
Hold on.
Well, he had a great
Tasha Yar.
line.
His name is the actor's name is Sean Dingwall.
Okay.
And he had
Great
another,
actor. I don't know about that name.
He had another great line. I'm your dad. It's my job for it to
Yeah.
be my fault.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, he
Yeah.
owned that
Yeah.
really well.
I mean,
I think I remember watching thinking like, this is a great episode for new parents to watch. You get to see how you can damage your child by fighting in front of them, and cautionary tale for adults.
earlier we were talking about the close-ups, and right here is where it's effective. Because
Yeah, this episode has a lot of extreme close-ups, shots,
Yeah.
already throughout it, and it is more intimate. So I didn't really notice it too much the first time I watched it, but going back and having the larger TV now, really, it's close
it's
up.
like right in your face. Well, that's another thing too. No one in 2005 we didn't have these big TVs like
Right.
we used to. Also, too, I mean, just filmmaking wise. Oh, jeez, my microphone keeps falling, folks. Gotta go see a doctor. Okay. Just filmmaking wise, you don't think about like maybe they did all the coverage, but those other takes didn't capture the emotion that they needed, or maybe they're watching these close-ups like, I wish we got medium shots. It's already shot. They can't. Television, they can't do reshoots and stuff like that sometimes with budgetary costs. So yes. They're too close, but at the same time, it's a matter of television production, and like that's
But
what
was
you
it
get.
filmed ratio 4:3, regular?
No, this was 16 by 9.
because we're into
Yeah, it was not high def, but it was 16 by 9.
Still, some people still kept. It's four.
yeah.
Oh, yeah,
wanted
yeah.
that,
Oh, it's
so.
4:3 safe.
yeah.
Okay, we're getting really tired.
No, but so it is. But I think it's definitely meant to be.
Not
more
everybody
intimate
listening's in the
close-up.
industry.
It's
Yeah.
definitely
Right, but I'm just saying
wanting
that
those
you don't
shots.
know. Sometimes what you shoot comes back. When you're actually
Right.
watching it, you're like, oh, like I said, I wish we got a little farther away. But these are great performances.
I think this is an absolute choice.
Yeah.
I think this is the director.
Yeah.
I think
Oh,
the
yeah.
director is this, especially if it was going to be a cheap episode while they were filming it.
Well, because they wouldn't have to make a set, or that much of a
Well,
set.
Well, no,
although
they've
they're in
got,
locations, which is really good. Set.
but it is like, I mean, that is a definite choice.
Maybe
Maybe those
the director
extreme
did-
close-ups.
But it
throughout
worked the first time I
entire-
watched it. I didn't even notice it.
It always bugs
Really?
me. Yes, because to me, I reach
Maybe
a
you just
point.
have a problem with
I always
intimacy.
reach a point where I go, what?
Maybe you just have a problem with intimacy.
Who told?
Frank.
By the way, Pete died on November 7th. That's our anniversary.
Oh,
That's so sweet.
it's a little bit morbid.
Maybe the March.
We just see it as a Doctor Who connection.
But I do always reach a point in this episode where it's like, step back 3 feet. It's too much for me, and it always has been.
And for me, it's always the opposite. It's like I want to hug everybody in this episode, like tell them it'll be okay.
I'm not the hugging type.
Maybe they're close talkers.
It's just a way to hide your face. Oh, I jumped the time stream.
I wanted to also talk about how the realization of Pete figuring out that he's supposed to be dead is just amazing. Like Rose is trying to inspire him. Like, you did this, you did that, it was great. And he's like, that's not me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like heartbreaking almost. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you told me a bedtime story every night. You never missed it. And he's like, no, that didn't happen.
he's like, I don't know how to read.
Well, that just goes more to how great the writing is, that they allowed Pete to be
Right.
perceptive of these things where, it would be very easy to make him, a dumb guy or something like
Dumb
that.
American.
Yeah.
You're right. So
But let's go back to the Tasha.
They wouldn't be as horrible as to make him an American. I mean, come on now. They have some standards.
But it goes back to Tasha. He had a meaningless death, and now his death is going to mean something.
Oh, huh. Yeah.
You know,
all right.
It's very similar.
I never
story than that.
carried it further. But yeah.
because he actually gets to save his daughter.
Yeah. Well, he saves everybody.
Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah, he saves his daughter, but he knows that he's saving the whole world too.
And that he had this extra time,
Yeah.
to realize it and know it, and got to meet and see what she's going to be
I never thought of it that way, but yeah.
Yeah, so it's like every parent wants to live long enough to see who their child becomes. He got that.
in a weird way, but he got it.
Timey-wimey way.
Absent-mindedly, Pete hands baby Rose to adult Rose, which allows a creature into the church. The Doctor is eaten by the creature, who then flies to where the TARDIS is materializing, and both it and the TARDIS disappear.
Yeah, but we got to talk about what he says, what he first says when the creature comes in.
What is it?
He says, "Get behind me, I'm the oldest thing in here."
I love that. Like the old building, old structure, and that old hymn. Oh, great stuff.
Also said, don't touch the key, and now we find out what happens if you
Don't
do.
touch the baby.
It's
I always like to find out, when they say don't do something, I want to know what the consequences are, and now we know.
I keep thinking of Con Air. Put the bunny down. Don't touch the baby.
I hope that's the only time you think about Con Air.
When I'm using a blow dryer.
But at this point, it's like, what can
Take
we
it
do?
back. There it is. There's at the moment.
But at this point, it's like, what is left? Are they going to end the show? Because the TARDIS is gone, the Doctor's gone, everything's going to be gone.
Like, that's it.
There is no way out other than
The only
what
thing
he
left
decides.
is ordinary people. So ordinary
An
people
ordinary
now
day.
having need to solve
Such a
everything.
depressing movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie, and we're not going off on that tangent.
No, we're not. I was working on a tangent, but that doesn't.
But I was going to say about the old, things being old. I could see it from a writer's point of view of, I need some reason why they're not attacking the church. I just need, a throwaway line. Okay, it's old.
But it works. But it works.
And then all of a sudden you can get such richness and depth from just a throwaway piece of plot that you have to get past, and it just makes it into this. And then it also solves, okay, they're going to attack me first because I'm the oldest. Great.
It just raises the stakes
Yeah.
so much. With the end of the world approaching, Pete watches the car outside repeatedly disappear and reappear as it turns the corner. He realizes his death will fix the wound in time. He says goodbye to Jackie and Rose and leaves the church. He runs in front of the car and is hit, restoring the timeline.
And all carrying.
Brian?
Oh yeah, the vase breaks. But I do want to say one thing. That's when we should all realize Pete is not the important thing. It's the vase. The vase is saved. Time goes wacky. The vase breaks. Time goes back to normal. It's the vase, people. It's not Pete. Pete was just an ordinary bloke.
And Jackie knew it. That stupid vase.
That stupid vase. I'm sorry. This whole episode, it should be Vases Day. I'm just saying.
Well, I did think it when she deliberately hands him the vase before he goes outside. I did think I guess in a way the vase is just as important as Pete because
Yes.
it's an article that was destroyed and now it's not.
It almost,
Right.
the way she hands it to him, it's almost like, you're going to battle. Here's your
Yes,
rifle. And he runs out there like he's carrying a rifle. It's just great. And also, at this point in the story, or the episode's story, we don't want Pete to die, even though from the beginning we know that he's dead. And it goes back to that thing that the people that want to die, we don't want. Or it's the opposites. Like, the people that want to die, they're not going to die. But the people that don't want to die.
Okay.
It's just one of those things as a writer, like you work it out where you don't want this to happen, you build up to it, and then you give it, you do that thing that you don't want to do.
Right. You have to do it.
Yeah, and I think that's great that every time something like this happens, this is the classic, or not the classic, but it's done effectively and by the book.
Mm-hmm.
I like that they had a little family moment
Right
before
before,
he leaves.
yeah.
That
Yeah, where
Jackie recognizes Rose. It's like it doesn't make any sense, but she gets it, and she realizes.
It's a mom. A mom knows their child.
I think it's
It's
Jackie's.
very sweet.
I think
to have
it's
that.
like Jackie's thickness. It just took enough time to get to those layers.
enough
and it got-
fantastical. Well, at this point, there's monsters. Everybody's dying. There's a disappearing phone booth. I mean, like this point, it's like the imaginary is possible. So I think her mind is opened up enough for her to believe it.
Yes.
Like if
But there's a part of me
It's
that thinks
Jackie.
even in the, I don't know. I guess in this point, I'm extremely sentimental. I think if Jackie really got a good look at Rose when she got out of the car, like seriously, got out of the car and Jackie really, really looked at her, she would still know it was
I'm
Rose.
half joking.
Because it's a mom and her child.
Well,
it's a dad and her child.
I'm half joking that it took her that long, but she was always busy with something of the wedding. That's why she didn't have a good look at Rose.
Oh, yeah. And why would she?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is just another, mental blonde,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the creatures disappear, and the doctor comes back telling Rose to go and be with her father in his last moments. The erased people all return, but no one besides the doctor and Rose have the memories of this alternate timeline.
I love how Rose is standing on the doorway of the church.
Yes.
And the doctor just walks into frame.
And
that's all he does. There's no effect. There's no sound. There's
it's
no
great.
nothing. He just walks into the
It's
frame.
like, yes, this is what should happen.
Yeah. And he just says, go to her. And or go to him, sorry. It's just, that to me is just like the best directorial decision. He just steps into frame, go to him, and she goes to him. It's great.
It is
No special effects.
very effective and simple.
Very simple.
We then okay.
Oh well, the story of Pete does change though in the final telling, so they do have a memory of
What happened?
he ran, and I guess she didn't know why he ran, but also even the boy who hit him then ended up staying, and it doesn't sound like he was not acquitted, but it was just an
It's
accident.
weird.
Yeah,
Um,
but the story of Pete does change to be more
Yeah,
heroic
Jackie
in real
actually
life.
says it wasn't the driver's fault. It wasn't. He was just a kid. It wasn't his fault. Pete ran out into the street.
So we flash back again to Jackie telling Child Rose about the day her father died, but the story has changed. It is no longer a hit and run, but a young driver who stopped and waited for the police. There was a young woman with Pete when he died. No one saw her face, but Jackie was glad someone was there with him.
Some of the details change. So it's weird with the alternate timeline. It's like there's three. It's like
There's
none
three
of the
possibilities.
Reapers, none of the creatures, were part of anyone's memory. They just remember going to the church like they did in both versions.
Timelines.
It's just exactly where he died moved, the time of death moved, but the day was the same and how he died was the same. But then mostly this really affected that kid's life. He used to run away from it and lived, I don't know what he lived with that guilt.
Turned out to be
Russell T. Davies. I'm sorry. I also wanted to point out like the similarities, or I noticed a similarity between the Quantum Leap episode, Lee Harvey Oswald Part 2, where Sam leaps into the Secret Service.
That's right.
The Secret Service agent.
Oh, that was so hard.
And the whole time he's thinking he's supposed to save JFK. But at the end, Al tells him, no, you're meant to save Jackie because she died that day too. And so they fixed that timeline. So to-
Jackie Tyler.
But you know what I mean? Like there's that similarity, like somebody's supposed to die in this episode. And I think that's pretty cool. This is also the first full episode that Billie Piper watched.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And she did it,
Was that on the...
she did it for the commentary.
Yeah.
She was like, this is the first show I'm watching without like it being a rough cut or something like that.
So while doing the commentaries when she first watched it,
Yes.
and any episode,
Yes, I remember
and
that now too.
This is the first full episode she
because
watched.
she doesn't like watching herself.
Yeah.
all right.
Well, if I remember correctly, because I haven't heard the commentary in a long time, but you can kind of tell. Because she's very quiet because she's watching the
She's just
episode.
watching it, yeah.
And then she's like, oh,
Yeah.
is that what they look like?
Oh yeah, that's right. Because she never saw the
She
final
never saw a
VFX.
Reaper or anything
Yeah.
like that.
I
Yeah.
just find it funny when actors don't like watching their own movies because they're like, well, then you picked a great field, didn't you?
No, I can see the difference between standing up there and playing a character and seeing
Yeah.
yourself.
You could do that on stage.
Well, yeah.
Some more behind the scenes stuff is that this episode was conceived because Rose was always considered portrayed as a good companion in previous episodes, and so they wanted Father's Day to show that she does make some mistakes, but in a relatable way. And
Well, she makes a doozy.
oh yeah,
She makes a big, huge
but
mistake.
But
relatable.
not really. Because the doctor was pissed at her the first time. When he leaves, he says he's going to leave her.
He didn't expect all
He wasn't
that to
expecting
happen.
all this to happen. So it's only because she didn't do it the first time she was there.
But-
if she would have ran in front and saved her dad the first time, this wouldn't have happened because it was
There
having the
wouldn't have
two
been no
sets
paradox.
of them
Yeah.
in the same
There wouldn't have
place
been a
and time.
paradox.
It wouldn't have ripped, to let the Reapers in or the
So it would have been
creatures.
one
But
thing. Not.
I mean that.
but
It's
it would have been bad. She made a mistake.
selfish, yes. Bad, yes, but not a doozy.
She was wrong.
She didn't destroy the world if she would have done it the first time. So it's not the act itself. It's because
Yeah,
she
but
did
it's
the
still
second
wrong.
time. Yes. Yes.
I
makes
can't get
mistakes.
past that.
She
It's
makes
still
Didn't change
wrong.
anything the first time.
But if she, I'm just thinking if she did. So it's not the
change
act
it the
of saving her
first time.
father is not as
Right.
evil as what.
But the second time that it
No,
happened,
not evil, just stupid.
but relatable.
That's one thing where in this episode where it's like, no, Rose, you messed up big time.
Yeah.
This is all my
Okay.
fault. Yes, as a matter of fact, it is all your fault.
Yes.
No,
I agree. And I'm glad he said that to her and
Yeah, and it's like, this
yeah.
isn't going to be,
for that.
oh, well, you didn't know any better.
And-
No.
And the original working title, I guess, is Wounded Time or Wound in Time before they came up with the final title of Father's Day. And this was done in February 2005, very shortly before it aired. And then Pete's thing of selling health drinks that was taken from Joe Cornell, his actual father doing the same thing. Paul Cornell, sorry, the writer. So he drew from his own experience.
write what you know.
Yep.
I want to know, since Jackie and the rest of the people don't remember what happened in the church, don't remember the creatures, or, she just said, I don't know why Pete left and ran out. She doesn't remember meeting Rose. Does Pete remember meeting Rose? When he's on the street, is it just a random girl that comes up to him? And does he know what's happened?
No, yeah, because I think that happened, pardon the pun, but over time, because
Yeah. The wounds were sealing themselves.
He was outside of time.
Well,
No, he remembers
Rose and the
Rose
doctor
because
are outside time. They
what?
travel time, and so their whole experience of time is different, and they can remember the alternate realities and what's
you mean
going on.
once he, yeah.
But
either
once
way,
he
I
got
think
hit-
it's nice. I think the fact if he looks up and there's some stranger there with him, that's nice. That's very cool too.
Oh, see, I see it. I mean, if he looks up and he doesn't remember that that's his daughter, to me, that's just heartbreaking. And it's like,
Well, yeah,
no,
that's how I see it.
I want to believe that is he remembers that's his daughter.
The actual healing, and this is the argument in favor of Pete being the important thing and not the vase, is the actual healing of time happens when he dies.
When he dies,
So
he's
it
not
isn't
dead yet.
until he dies,
dies.
that time becomes healed.
I mean, it's healing
Okay.
because he's dying. So that's
I'll
how you
take
get
that one because that's a nice.
that's how you get the doctor back
Yeah.
before he's dead. That's how you get other people back before he dies. But it's healing, yeah, and he remembers.
So what if somebody glues the vase back together?
And that episode of Brady Bunch starts leaking. But there's just one
The
thing
driver
that
of the
just
car owns
is
the base
inconsistent
now.
later on. I am going to give a little spoiler, but
Yeah, that's
they
fine.
mentioned this in another episode. And at the end of this, Jackie says people had said that there was a woman with him. That it sounds like she didn't see it. And in another episode, it's no, you saw there was a blonde woman there. You saw that, and it's Rose, but. It's just odd. It's just writing and just, that little
Well, also too, I
inconsistency.
think it's just like,
She didn't say that, I saw this woman and then she
Yeah,
walked away.
at the time they did what the script needed
Right.
them to do, kind of a thing.
And that's when you have to realize, yeah, it's an inconsistency. It's a TV show.
Yeah.
They're referencing back to it, but there are going to be
Yeah.
some.
Because
You know,
it is,
that's
thing,
little gaps.
nobody's, nobody remembers things. Nobody remembers what happened, but he doesn't die in front of the apartment. He dies in front of the church.
Yeah.
How, like the driver of the car going, this was not where I was driving. I mean, if you really start to think about it,
It's a little complex.
it's a little complex. So it's kind of like, this is an emotional thing.
Let's focus on what...
And they've earned it.
Absolutely.
Don't get trapped in the whole.
Yeah, don't get
minutia
caught
of
up in the
everything.
minutia. Yeah, it's like if they've earned that moment where it's like you can move
And they
past
did.
it, and they totally did.
Maybe there's a whole other television show about that driver who thinks he was abducted by aliens because he had lost time.
Was that on an episode of The X-Files?
Yes.
I wanted to also, some production stuff. The weather had changed frequently during the filming of this episode. And some of the cast members started to get sick, and Eccleston was one of them. He had a cold by the time this episode was filming. And Billie Piper stated that this was her favorite episode of the first series.
Well, it didn't show that he was sick, so he did well.
No, yeah, he did fine.
He's a trooper.
I also heard that they were the discussion between Davies and the writer of whether or not Rose knew
What she was doing.
that she was going
Yeah.
to want to deal with her father before going on to the TARDIS, and that was a discussion: do we want her to know or not?
And then they said they finally decided to leave it ambiguous and like up to us what we're doing now.
I kind of think she did know, because she sort of says it in the episode when he really...
Billy said that Rose didn't plan on that going into the TARDIS. That it was after time traveling and stuff. Then
Yeah.
Rose would
that.
do that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, because the doctor says
doctor
to
accuses
her,
at the beginning.
I said it went traveled through time. You said no.
right. No, but I get the impression that that's why she suggested going there, not to be there for him when he died, but to save him. But she's saying she sort of told a
I
fib.
don't think she came up with that whole idea yet. I think it could be
Yeah.
partly, but it's like more subconscious. Because I really don't think she was going to save him, because she didn't the first time.
Yeah, it's more of a spur of the
Right.
moment thing.
You know,
Well, I don't know, because she says, because when she was talking about why she thought of going there, and then she says, "Well, I thought, since I'm there or something like that, why not save him?" Like she said,
Right.
when I just watched it yesterday, I kind of felt like that's what she was saying. That like, that's the reason she did suggest going,
right.
ish.
See, and I'm harsh on that because I think if she did plan it, like if she planned it from the very, very beginning,
Not the very beginning.
No. I'm saying
Of the
if she
episode?
planned, no. I have a long thought.
Okay.
If this was anything but a spur of the moment, I can kind of justify it as a spur of the moment, although it was stupid. That's how I see it. If she planned it from the beginning of the episode, well, aren't you a little conniving? That's not good. If she planned it from the moment he says, and this travels through time in the pilot episode, then that would really affect my vision of Rose as a character. You know, I mean, I was saying to Frank, you're out of the TARDIS. If I'm the Doctor and I found out that, you're gone.
Yeah.
I'll go get Adam. You're gone.
I think
know.
it's the second. I think
Because
that-
I hate Adam. I want this, like Josh says, the second.
I think it's the second one.
And even that bothers me.
I don't think it was a cognitive plan to save her
I
father.
don't know. We'd have to watch that scene again.
I have a feeling she was so emotional and she did just want to be there for him when he passed away, not realizing, not even really thinking, oh, I'll save him. I'll just be with him when he dies. And then in the spur of the moment, like Frank was saying, I could run out there and do that.
And I think
It's
that's
right here.
But I think
It's
it's,
in front-
partly in her brain anyway.
But-
But she's like, no, that's not. It's like.
But
no,
I think she doesn't, I don't think she's
it's
going to
not even
do
a
it.
conscious decision.
Right, because nobody has that.
Yeah.
Nobody has that in reality. But when she was standing there and she sees the car coming and she sees I'm only, 20 feet away or whatever it is, in that spur of the moment, she goes, this is reality. I can save him.
Right.
And she does it. I just don't think she would plan it ahead of time.
Well, that's why I think this episode is great, because it allows discussion like this. of
Absolutely.
what's really going on.
Yeah,
and
it's
it
a
leaves
sign
it
of
up
a
to
good
us.
episode.
Yeah.
Makes you think. Because if it was a bad episode, we wouldn't care one way or the other.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want my television spelled out.
TV.
With a catchy theme song that explains the premise.
Yes. He's a doctor, and he travels in time, sometimes forward, sometimes back.
Copyright, Josh. I also noticed that the actor, Sean Dingwell, has the same hairstyle as Eccleston. So I think there's this like mirroring of the Doctor and her father.
Oh, that's creepy.
I think they were just trying to cover up his bald head.
Well, they're both like.
No, I think
receiving-
there definitely was.
But like
the doctor
come
being.
forward.
There's a little romance between Rose and the doctor, but it's more of the fatherly figure in this. You know, he cups her face that way, and they walk away at the end, hand in hand. It's just
You see, but you had to point out the hand cupping the face because I saw that as romantic. Because I didn't remember that
don't
Pete does
know
the same
that.
thing
I saw
later.
it as romantic too, but now that he said that, I think
Exactly.
it's bridging it.
Exactly.
It's odd because he is 900, so it's odd for him to have these feelings and things.
Because I'm
at this
900 doesn't
point.
mean I'm dead.
but it is definitely caring. It's definitely emotional.
Yes. No, I agree
a
with you
closeness
once
that
you
they have.
explained it to me, but I just thought it was a romantic thing because they are starting, they're why does everybody always think we're a couple?
Right.
And I think it is like, well, because you're going to start.
Because you are, but you haven't realized it yet.
I mean, just a little bit.
Yeah.
Just, they haven't done much.
The groom's the groom's father is Eccleston's dancing double for the Doctor Dances.
Oh, really?
he did a dancing
for that?
double?
Yeah,
Well, he can't dance, can he?
but I just think that's
we needed
funny.
a double
That
for.
is funny.
Yeah.
Well, when we get to that episode.
And this episode, Father's Day, was nominated for the 2006 Hugo Award for Best Dramatic Presentation Short Form, alongside other first series episodes, Dalek and The Empty Child / The Doctor Dances. The Empty Child, The Doctor Dances is the one that won, but Father's Day topped the third place category in terms of votes.
Oh, okay.
And I think that wraps it up. Shall we recommend Father's Day to a Who Knew viewer? Frank.
I say yes to being the first episode. I think you can start someone off with this. I think it shows a lot of showing the time travel, why you can't just go back and try and save people. It answers that question right off the bat. It gives you a hint that the Doctor's alone in the universe. Those people have gone. So you get that information. You get good background information on the companion and her family, and that's something Davies does great. That the other doctors before this didn't really focus on the companions and their family, and this broadens that. I think yes. I'd put this as you could show someone this as a first episode.
Brian.
Yes, I would recommend this one. Again, it has all the classic elements, but it's also very character driven, so people would realize that this isn't cardboard. This is all characters. They have emotions. It makes sense. This fantastic stuff happens, but based in a reality.
I want to add one thing.
No.
I'm sorry, I'm going to.
Too late.
It also shows that it's not just a children's show.
Yes.
Because that's what a lot of people have when they first hear about it, is that it's a children's show. And this is definitely not that type of episode.
Josh.
Yeah, for all those reasons, but especially for what you just said, that it's not a children's show, and it's not just a sci-fi nerdy, geek out. It's something heavy and dramatic, and take all those fantastical elements out of it, and you still got a good story. If it's just a time travel story, people could be disappearing instead of being eaten by monsters.
Alburn.
I will also say yes for all of the above reasons, as well as just being a really well-written episode, character-driven, like you've said. And it also acts as a bit of like a prequel, for Rose, like giving, not only talking about the family, but actually going back and seeing, this is how Jackie and Pete got married. This is baby Rose and her interactions with the doctor, like before even being conscious of it. The VFX, like I said, the first time I watched it, I thought they were worse, but they've grown on me. So yeah, I still say yes.
I kind of feel like with the visual effects that they did really good with what they had. Like you could tell they were somewhat limited, but like when the creatures were scratching on the church and the rubble from the church came off, like they did a lot of little nice touches that melded it all together.
Yeah, watching it again, it didn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I was just remembering it like it was. They were poorer, but yeah, no, I enjoyed it the second watching.
And I always feel that if the story holds up, I can forgive a lot with visual effects. Like in the classic series, a really good story this mysterious monster at the end turns out to be a guy in a
Green trash bag.
And it's like, well, the story is good. So, just accept it, move on.
For me, I'm torn, and I want to just say no, because everything that leads up to this episode, you won't get because you're watching just this episode.
What wouldn't you get?
Like the dynamic between Jackie and Rose, and if this is your first episode.
But there's enough inferred in it to
True, but I'm saying
And
that
also the thing that I had,
you can't have an opinion.
the thing that
please shut his mic off.
we'll do it live.
Our new host will be.
It's it's one of those things where when I suggested that we do would you recommend this to a first timer? It isn't that it's absolutely positively perfect for a first person, because no episode is.
No, yeah.
So it's like any episode going forward now is going to have backstory. We can't limit ourselves to just completely standalone episodes. That would just be a perfect little capsule of Doctor Who, and you don't need to know anything before or after. It's, is it an exciting story? Is it well done? Is it not too weird? And that's kind of how I'm looking at it, where it's like, you're never going to have a perfect episode. So I don't think that not knowing Jackie and seeing her here, you'd still get a great idea of Jackie in this episode. And I don't think you would be put off seeing this episode and then seeing earlier episodes of Jackie. I don't think you would be thrown too much by that.
Understood, but I'm just saying, for me, I'd want all that stuff that came before, so that when this hits me, it hits me the way it's supposed to, like it's intended.
Right.
Yes, true, but that means that you're never going to recommend another one going forward, because we're just going to build on backstory.
No, but this is a definite backstory of the people that we already are invested in.
True.
That's what he's saying. I still say yes, it should be.
I understand that point more.
But you don't know who Rose is. You don't know who Jackie is. You don't understand why they're missing Peter as much.
But I think there's a lot of universal themes.
I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you guys. I'm just saying that I'm not sure I would introduce this episode to.
But I'm disagreeing with you.
Well, then why didn't you introduce this episode to me when we started watching this?
Because there are better ones.
Which did you introduce to him? Which one?
Girl in the Fireplace.
Girl in the Fireplace.
All right.
Girl in the Fireplace and
The next two.
Queen Victoria and
Tooth and Claw.
School Reunion.
School Reunion.
Those are the three.
School reunion?
Yes.
Good. Anyway.
Talk about backstory, though.
Yeah.
And when we get to it,
Yeah.
because I will be recommending it, I'm telling you right now, so we may have to fight.
No. I have my gun.
I see that's two different
I'm an
episodes.
American.
I
It
just
would be
remembered.
interesting to, at some point soon, to see what the leading episode is.
Yeah. True. All right, so that wraps up Father's Day. You've heard our views. When do you think Rose had the idea to save her father? Was it in her mind from the beginning? Was it a spur of the moment kind of thing? Let us know. Email us at whonewpodcast@gmail.com. Join us next time when the future becomes the present.
You've just listened to an episode of Who Knew?
Our wonderful theme music is by Michael Grady. You can find his work at theuniverseexplodes.com.
You can find this show in several places. Follow us on Twitter at Who Knew Podcast, subscribe, review, and listen to us on iTunes and Stitcher, or our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Who Knew Podcast.
All our episodes are on whonewpodcast.com, and you can leave comments there or email us at whonewpodcast@gmail.com.
This podcast is inspired by Doctor Who, the longest-running sci-fi show in history, and especially the revival spearheaded by Russell T. Davis.
Thanks to Russell, Sidney Newman, Verity Lambert, Ron Grainer, and all those involved in the adventures of our favorite Time Lord.
Your work continues to inspire and entertain.